Welcome to Enjoy the Journey podcast, where we interview expert entrepreneurs and thought leaders to help guide you in pursuit of financial freedom. Presented to you by Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and Sam Panetta, the Money Man, where we help service-based business owners remove cash flow bottlenecks, maximize their profits, and turn business profits into personal wealth. G'day guys, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and we're here for another episode of the Enjoy the Journey podcast. We're here for another expert masterclass, and I'm super excited about today's podcast because I've got some really awesome guests that I've been trying to pin down to share some of their expertise. Through this whole coronavirus situation, these guys have been absolutely crushing it in the e-commerce space, and they've managed to spare a little bit of time to be able to share some value with the audience of the podcast. So we're going to be talking today with Theo Stavro and Ricky Hayes from Quick Evolve Digital Marketing. Now, Theo and Ricky specialize in helping e-commerce businesses grow and scale using paid advertising. Look, it's the Wild West, this space, and these guys actually practice what they preach and have been getting some phenomenal results for their clients. So I'm super excited to talk to them today. So Theo and Ricky, how are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Mate, so let's start with yourself, Ricky. Give us a little bit of a backstory, mate. Where did you start, and essentially what brought you to where you are now?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting story, actually, even from my perspective. But basically, so I started like most people, I was just in a typical 9-to-5 position, and my friend introduced me into making money online. I had no idea. One thing led to another. After a year of consistent failures, I took the leap into quitting. So throughout that whole year, I had learned a lot about e-commerce. I still was not, I would say, very good, but I took the leap. It was a big leap. I'm very thankful I had my wife to support me through that time. Anyway, and one thing led to another, and I had a number of e-commerce businesses. That's where I started doing my own e-commerce businesses, where I had many failures, but then I had a number of successes. My key one being that in a Q4 period that did over 2.6 million. And that's where at that point I built a YouTube channel because I enjoy teaching people as well. And it was to get to the point with how Theo and I work together it was a sort of about a year after that when Theo approached me. He was actually interested in my paid course, and messaged him back, and one thing led to another. He pulled out his wallet straight away because I really want to learn these techniques. And we just kept talking. We had a lot of synergy going, and I learned about his agency, Quick Evolve. It's always been something that I've been interested in, the agency world, in terms of new skills, new opportunities. Since then, we've basically just been working together on helping clients to grow their businesses, plus our own as well, of course. So that's sort of to give a condensed story without boring everyone to death.
No, beautiful, mate. That's fantastic. So quick shout out for the YouTube channel. What do we search for to get access?
Ricky Hayes. Sorry. Yeah, Ricky Hayes.
Keep it simple, mate. I love that. No one can forget. Beautiful, mate. And so Theo, what's your story, mate? Tell us a bit of background on you.
Awesome. So I was always sort of an entrepreneur growing up. I always loved the digital marketing space. So I kept seeing different marketing materials on Facebook and the internet. And I thought to myself, you know what, if I can learn Facebook marketing, then I have a limited income. So I started learning more about digital marketing. So I learned from people like Neil Patel, Bev Simkin, or the other big dogs, Frank Kern. I just fell in love with it, right? So I fell in love with it, and after a while, I started reaching out to different businesses. And I had one client that I was working with for some time, and they were really struggling in the e-commerce space. And they were doing around 20, 30K a month. And then after 6 months working together, I got into about $300,000 a month in revenue from 20 and 30. So I knew that I definitely had the skills in this space. I really want to help other businesses sort of grow using Facebook marketing and Google Ads. So that's where sort of I started. And obviously I started the Quick Evolve agency to pretty much help businesses grow their business. And the main thing was, for me, it wasn't just the fact that, the money and stuff like that. It was the fact that these businesses that had amazing products, they bought amazing products, they created amazing brands, but they just didn't have the knowledge to actually grow their business using different advertising platforms. And that's why I thought to myself, you know what, I can really help these people get these amazing products out there and get them more customers using these different digital marketing platforms. And that's when I sort of met Ricky. I saw Rick was doing some amazing stuff on Facebook, right? And I was like, not only does Ricky sort of, talk about it, teach it, but, he's done a lot of his own e-commerce businesses. I'm like, you know what? I need these guys on my team. I'm just going to buy his course, start a conversation with him, and then, yeah, we just started working together ever since. It's been great. It's been awesome.
That's phenomenal, mate. And look, I think this is awesome what you guys are doing. I don't know if you guys know a little bit of background on me, but I actually had an e-commerce business for around 5 or 6 years. It was a men's fashion label that was called Siete Clothing Co. And I started it out of necessity. I was working as a financial advisor at a big bank. My old man got diagnosed with stomach cancer. He had to stop work. I went through my first corporate restructure. And my brilliant idea to subsidize my income and be able to keep the household afloat was to start a men's fashion e-commerce business from scratch. Brilliant idea, not. Look, I learned a lot. But what I found in my experience was that I was able to source the clothing, put stuff together. I consider myself a little bit of a fashionable bloke. And the technical side of things was fine. But the minefield for me was marketing. And I unfortunately fell into the traps of engaging a so-called marketing expert who really hit me for X6. Basically squeezed me for everything that I was worth and really set us back a really, really long time on our journey just because we didn't know any better. And I'm sure you guys have heard that a lot, right?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, like, it's funny you say that with the e-commerce thing. My first e-commerce store that I made was a stationery store. I don't know why. I thought, oh, yeah, I can sell pencils. Anyway, and so I thought, screw it, I got this. I spent 3 months making the store. Like, I was so focused on making what's defined as the perfect store. To then like, oh, I need to run some ads because no one knows who I am, and no one cared. And it was at that moment that I realized that I was getting ahead of myself, and that it is important to have a great store, great product, great offer. But at the end of the day, if no one knows who you are, it doesn't mean much. And that was also where the second point about with a lot of these experts, there are plenty of quality experts out there. But I just from my experience as well as being in the agency and stuff, have found that I personally find that a lot of people just know 1% more than the masses, and that's enough to sell these people. And it unfortunately causes a lot of negativity in the community from my perspective.
I agree. And I think it's so unfortunate because this is sometimes people's hard-earned money that they can't make back, and they're taking a leap of faith. So I think hopefully by this podcast, guys, we can share some valuable insights for anybody who may be looking to get into e-commerce, already doing e-commerce and looking to scale up to make sure that they can kind of protect themselves from these sharks. So guys, let's talk about the kind of background of e-commerce. So from your guys' experience, Ricky, for you running some successful e-commerce businesses, and for you guys running ads for e-commerce businesses, what makes an e-commerce store successful? What are the kind of keys to success in your opinion?
Well, the firstly would always be product is king. So like whatever the product is, it has to be something that catches your attention, especially if we're talking, let's say, in the realm of Facebook marketing. It has to be something that catches people's attention straight out the gate, because otherwise, if people aren't interested in it, they're not going to obviously even click your ad to potentially become a buying customer. And then obviously from that, understanding what your product is, and then understanding what the people you're targeting is. If you're trying to do a men's fashion brand, you're going to try and target men that are into various other fashion existing labels, like various shoe brands, t-shirt brands, so on and so forth. To me, that's the most important thing. The two most important things is who you target and what the product is showing those people. The way I generally then look at it is it's about following the data. Now, I haven't been officially, but I have autism, so I'm very analytically minded, and that's why digital marketing works so well with me. I love to follow the data, and so I look at it as a 3-step process. It's about finding a quality product, doing some research about who your ideal customer is, and then putting it in front of them, collecting data through paid marketing, and then trying to determine, once you've gotten that data, where your audience lies, like what ages they are, what gender, what placement, time of day, various factors. I'm probably getting a bit complex there. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And I guess Theo, from the from the data piece, once we've got that data, we've got that information, and we've been able to apply those analytical models that Ricky's talking about, what would we do next to have a successful e-commerce business?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the most important things as well is, the podcast to solve a problem. So once we've got the data, one thing we've got to do is start testing different audiences. Okay, so a lot of times I see people, and we see this a lot of different ad accounts when we do free reviews, is that they're testing about one audience and they're trying to smash that one audience with just like one creative. And if it's not working, they just put more budget behind it. When really the only way to find more winning audiences is to keep testing, right? And Facebook is extremely smart. So if you keep testing different audiences, once you sort of work at the data and start scaling up the ad sets or the audiences which are working really well, then you have a really great result from that.
So it's kind of like casting that net wider and then working out what is actually working before you double down. It's not just throwing good money after bad, right?
Correct. 100% correct there. Because the last thing you want to do is sort of put all your budget into an audience that doesn't really care about your product. And one big thing me and Ricky see as well is the fact that people don't exclude audiences when it comes to ad sets. People just, sort of put in an audience and don't exclude their website traffic or their purchases. Now, with the way Facebook works is like Facebook wants to give you the best result possible. So if you put an ad set in and you don't exclude the website visitors or the people that have already purchased, okay, then you're obviously just going to, Facebook obviously just target those people because it thinks the best people for it. That doesn't really care whether it's come to your website or not, right? So you'll be spending money on people who've seen your ads before and gone to your website instead of trying to find new audiences.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So if we look at the different types of e-commerce businesses, I guess for you kind of startup e-commerce businesses from like zero up until what monthly revenue would you say would be like a startup e-commerce business, would you say, guys?
So for them to be a client, you mean, or something?
Yeah, in terms of like that
that's-
kind of early stage e-commerce, would you say it's around that kind of 20, 30K a month that you've kind of proven concept?
Yeah, I would say so. Because the thing is, like with any business, you need to inject money, give it time and consistency. I've personally myself had many products that I've scaled very high, very quick, and then they die out just as quick. You need to personally, for me, I look at it that you at least with a product need to give it at least 2 to 3 weeks of seeing consistent sales coming in, ideally at some form of profit to you. To say that, yeah, this is a product that I can really start growing further, because I've had many products where I test where I get a couple of sales and then it's like, I'm in the middle of the desert type thing. So, yeah.
So what would you say would be the best tips for those e-commerce businesses that are that kind of 30K and below?
Yeah. So most businesses that are doing 30K actually have a lot of opportunity that they're just not fully capitalizing on. So to me, I sort of look at it that I actually see a lot of companies, they don't even do retargeting. So I see a lot don't even do retargeting, whether it's what's called dynamic product remarketing or just remarketing the same product to people who have, let's say, landed on your website. Most people, especially in the e-commerce space, and I think this is in most areas in life, usually take a number of interactions before he or she builds enough trust to pull out their wallet. So remarketing is definitely one of the keys. To me, one of the other keys is I see a lot of people not optimizing for purchase. There's a lot of theories and a lot of pros and cons to each and every one. However, I've always taken a very simplistic view that Facebook is very intelligent and that if you want to purchase and you're an e-commerce business, then you just tell Facebook explicitly that. And then the third thing, and this is because I just love this, is to not just, in my opinion, rely purely on Facebook ads. A lot of our clients or a lot of people in general primarily rely on Facebook. There is a big world out there from Google, Bing, YouTube, but also the back end of your store. So we mainly help people that are mainly on Shopify. And there's a number of apps you can use and functionality that actually gets people back and buying completely automated and at a fraction of the cost as well. So the way I look at it is that when you have the traffic and you got the sales and you got consistency, to me, I look at it that the next step is how I can get more sales with my existing traffic.
This makes a lot of sense because that brings your cost per acquisition down as well. And
correct.
It's crazy why people aren't doing it. It's so focused on bringing that constant new flood of opportunity through that they don't optimize what they've already got.
Exactly.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I mean, the most important part, pretty much Ricky summed up, is the customer journey, right? So once you're at that 20, 30K mark, I mean, if you can improve that customer journey where someone sort of sees your ads once or twice and you sort of bring them back to the website not only is remarketing good, but also upselling, right? So if someone's
Sure.
purchased from you before, they have that trust there. They love your brand, they love your product. So they're much more likely to buy again. So definitely retention campaigns work really well, upsell campaigns, where you're targeting people who already purchased before with other products, which are similar. That works really well, but I see a lot of times people don't do that at all. They just sort of forget about the people who've already purchased, which is pretty crazy to me.
It's missing a lot of great opportunity because you've already got that trust. All of the hard work's pretty much been done, right?
Exactly.
So let's assume that we've got to that 30K mark. What would you say is the next big milestone for an e-commerce business these days?
Or to me, as I said, because I see a lot of people mainly using Facebook ads and stuff. Let's say hypothetically someone was and they're hitting around that, 1K a day mark.
Yeah.
Personally, I always tell people that they should be doing Google ads. If you're doing well on Facebook ads, nearly every time you'll always do well on Google ads, and it's a very simple new skill set. So it can be challenging, but I personally, I prefer diversification before I just scale up my ads,
Sure.
because I also find a lot of people, this is a little hack I've found that a lot of people do anyway, is a lot of people will click your ads on Facebook and then they'll actually go on to Google or Bing, predominantly Google, and they'll actually type in the name of your business because they want to know more about your business before they buy. And as a result, for example, we've had a number of clients that, let's say, have a $10, $15 cost per purchase on Facebook. This one campaign on Google gets you about 50-cent cost per purchase, and it's completely autonomous, because what it is it's what's known as a brand search campaign. Basically, it's just ranking for the keywords of what your business is, so that people come back and they buy. Because it's just, again, it's that second or third interaction where people then build that trust and come and buy from you. And then next, once I have that in place, that's when I've learned from experience that I don't aggressively scale on Facebook. It's up to the individual, of course, but I've found that it's a general rule of thumb that over a 3 to 7 day window, if I'm getting good results or results within our expectations, then I'll increase the next 3 to 7 days by 20% overall in terms of ad spend. Okay. Because Facebook is such a inconsistent platform at times.
Now, I've heard stories that, I guess, a couple of things here, that people have got a winning campaign, and as soon as they scale up the ad spend, their conversion rates drastically drop, and they can't even work out why. Is that really the methodology behind scaling up by that 20%?
Yeah, that is it. Like, so a number of our clients that are spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a day, we've seen a number of other people where they basically they have fewer campaigns at higher budget, and the theory is it's meant to optimize, but in my experience, that's never really happened. So if we're spending like $2,000, $3,000 a day, as an example, we'll have probably 100 campaigns running consistently.
Yeah, wow.
Because we just find that lower budget and more campaigns generally yields a better result. However, the drawback is that it means a lot more management,
of course,
as a result.
And I think this is where many marketers might get lazy, right? That they think that just setting up one campaign and just dumping more budget on it is going to get the results, lines their pockets, but doesn't necessarily keep the client in the best possible position. Isn't that right, Theo?
Exactly right. So a lot of times people, I was saying before, they want to sort of put that budget into one campaign and optimize just through that one ad set. But, the more audience you can test, the better result you can get. The other thing we really do as well, we set up rules. So we set up rules at the ideal cost per purchase, ideal add to cart. And then from there, if it's not hitting that rule, then your budget will decrease or increase depending on the rule that's set, right? So the other thing as well, we set up rules on times of the day. The times of the day that perform really well, we actually make the budget increase, while times of the day where the sales are not so good, then we decrease the budget automatically. So rules are very important when it comes to scaling, because you don't want to, when you spend a lot of money, last thing you want to do is be on the ad account 24/7, hours a day, just looking at it. You want to have those rules in place so automatically systemize that, decrease or increase the budget accordingly. Another thing that we found with scaling is, one of the biggest things that people get lazy on this all the time, is looking at creatives. Okay, the more creatives you have, the more you can test creatives, and the more winners you have, you can easily scale without losing much of your spend, right? I mean, we were testing a different creative for one of our clients, and we found this video doing really well. And it really solved the problem. It showed the problem in the creative, and it showed that our product solved it. And we ended up going from it was like $15 cost per purchase, about $7.50 cost per purchase,
wow,
just through that one creative. Okay, because there's only so much you can do when it comes to obviously managing your ad sets. But if people can see the problem through the creative and see your product solving it, then you can have a really good conversion rate that way.
So what would be your suggestion on the number of creatives that you should be using per ad set?
So per ad set, we'll test at least 3 to 4 different creatives. It just depends on the budget as well.
Sure.
But ideally, we'll look at 3 or 4 different creatives, and every single week we'll be testing a new one. So we'll test different creatives that have a process for that, okay? And then the ones that are winning creatives, we'll put them in different audiences, and again, we'll test again next week. Because like you might think you have the best creatives in the world, you might think they're amazing, you can't beat them, right? But then, you get something from like, say, for example, a customer showing them using their product, and you put it up, and it's like, wow, this is absolutely killing it, right? So it just comes down to testing all the time, just being proactive and testing different creatives all the time and making sure you find the winners and scale them up all the time.
And this is very scientific, guys. Like you can already hear that from what you guys are saying, there's a methodology at play here. And there's a big difference between just jumping into an ad account and just willy-nilly setting up some ads or having a methodology. So do you feel that most agencies have this kind of methodology, or do you feel that there's a lot of other people out there that are just winging it?
Sorry.
I'll let Rick answer that one. He loves talking about this.
Yeah. Very passionate about that.
But, for Ricky.
I do find that a lot of people, especially with the creatives, that they do wing it, and that they don't really take it serious. There is a real. My wife is a provisional psychologist, but anyway, and so I speak to her about the human mind a lot. There's a lot of psychology behind, marketing is pretty much psychology, realistically, just in a what they see type sense. And so I find it a very interesting thing that a lot of people, they don't try new creatives. They don't try. They just get lazy and complacent rather than just trying something new. I find that very consistently. And as a little tip that I find, the example that Theo gave about the reduction in the cost per purchase was actually a creative that was exactly provided by a customer. And we just simply asked for reviews from our customers, and then they gave them to us. And then we just use that in our marketing creatives. It's real, it's authentic, and it's owned by the business. And as a result, people then see that, because a lot of people that are buying have very similar questions and reasons that they don't buy. And then with a really authentic creative that costs nothing, like the customer did all the work for us, there's no reason to test that. So I'm very passionate about one of the best ways if people ever don't know how to get creatives is if you have a good business and you're running it consistently, ask your customers for reviews, because they'll give you them. And then basically they do the creative side for you. You just throw it up on Facebook.
It's that social proof. It just makes sense, right? We all want that to de-risk our purchases, and I think that's for many of us, and even myself. Like I fancy myself a little bit of online shopping, and I always try and stop myself to think about the customer experience and the kind of how I'm feeling about going through that process. And it's all about de-risking. It's just, if something feels shady, the process is too clunky, there's no social proof, it sets off alarm bells, doesn't it?
Well, and to add to that as well, the explosion in the amount of e-commerce businesses that have grown, and it's very unfortunate that a lot of people have been very heavily burnt from their online buying experience. So people are you need to build a lot more trust with people. And as you said, social proof is one of the quickest and easiest ways to get the ideal customer to pull out their wallet.
Yeah, and a good technique for that as well, obviously asking and using different apps for that, is you can run a campaign to your already purchased audience, right? And just say, hey, we're doing a competition for this product, we're giving one away. All you got to do is send in, a video of using one of our products, for example, right? Amazing. And people will send you heaps. Don't worry. People love sending, for example, in the baby niche, people love sending their babies and love sending their pets in with using their products. So that's a really good technique to use as well.
That's amazing. It's really simple. And just about having that creative way where you're using the same advertising platform, but just with a different intention, which is awesome.
Exactly.
Now, guys, circling back to the conversation around Google Ads, and I think that for many businesses, not just e-commerce, but most businesses these days, they're kind of afraid of Google Ads now because of the cost of Google advertising. In contrast, sometimes being perceived as being a lot more expensive than other alternatives. Do you guys believe that's the case? And should people be afraid of Google Ads? And essentially, how should they use it appropriately?
So the answer to all of those is, in my opinion, you should 100% always use Google Ads. Theo knows as well, I'm very passionate about that. I love my Google Ads.
Yeah, loves it. Super passionate about that.
So I see that same question asked quite a lot about the cost. So there's a few things to break down there. Google has a far harder, steeper, I guess I should say, learning curve up front. But once you learn those skills, I do generally find Google yields a far higher result and more consistently with less work than Facebook. And it's usually at that point most people are sold. Anyway, but so the thing is with Google is I look at it that you're going up a very heavy mountain. Once you get at the top of the mountain, it's as simple as anything. I actually find it's a funny thing that with Facebook's very easy to start off with, and then it becomes a mountain that you just can never traverse. Whereas Google, you traverse the mountain, and then it's much easier moving forward. And it definitely is more expensive on a general basis than Facebook in the beginning, and that mainly ties down to that. Facebook, you're targeting an interest. Let's say someone that's interested in shoes. And that's specific, and Facebook does the work there for us. With Google gives us a lot more control, but as a result, we need to understand how to control it. What I mean by that is there's an infinite number of keywords on Google. If you don't understand how to properly rank and manage your keywords, then basically you're going to fight a losing battle.
Sure.
So to people, that's why I usually say to start really trying to understand the best keywords for your business and really hone in on those keywords, because the thing that I love about keywords is once you find a good keyword that's converting, it's always going to convert. It's just a matter of how often, because if someone types in the word buy dog collar, they're always going to be interested in buying a dog collar. It's just a matter of how often.
Sure. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think this is where it comes down to having the right team, because once again,
Correct.
there's so many people out there that profess to be experts. And I guess one of the key measures of that expertise is having all of the Google certified or the Facebook certified little icons. So Ricky, I'm sure you've got something to say about this. For all of those individuals that are trying to utilize and leverage social proof as marketers because they're certified, is that something to go by as I guess a reputable source?
No, in my opinion, don't get me wrong, it's important in its own regard, but I always say to people that it's most important not to look at those as your go-to point, because a lot of these courses are very beginner orientated.
Yeah,
I always say to people that are curious, it's actually the most important thing is to learn the skills yourself, at least in the beginning, rather than going off by someone's badges, what they have beside their name. Go and do some research yourself and learn a bit of the skills. Doesn't have to be perfect, rather than just trying to, I guess, go off by someone that's finished a Google Ads course that are very beginner friendly. In fact, I actually recommend to a lot of people to literally just jump on YouTube. Nearly on YouTube, you can learn an absolute huge amount of knowledge just on YouTube, because e-commerce has grown so rapidly. There's a lot of people on YouTube that teach a lot of this stuff, and to be honest, including myself. And you can go there and start to learn the skills yourself and actually get it started rather than paying someone a lot of money to do it for you in the beginning.
Makes a lot of sense. And look, YouTube's a great platform. And I think there's a couple of angles we can talk about YouTube in terms of using YouTube ads. We're seeing that there's a lot of growth in that space as well. So I'd be keen to pick you guys' brains on it. But let's talk about the learning piece in terms of YouTube. I saw come up on my feed a little while back. I think it was actually put into one of those bad business groups that there was a so-called guru in the e-commerce space that was selling these ridiculous programs. And someone did a debunking. Basically, this guy had made a habit of setting up these crappy Shopify stores, selling products that he'd got off AliExpress, never actually fulfilling anything, winding up the store after he'd collected all the money, and then going and rinsing, repeating, and doing it again. I'm not sure if you guys saw that story.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I know all about it.
So how do you protect yourself? Because when you watch that guy's videos, he presents quite well. He's quite charismatic. He holds himself with a certain frame. As somebody who's trying to learn, what are the telltale signs that you should be looking for between a so-called expert and a real expert like yourself, Ricky?
Nothing is ever as easy as it seems. In life, in any business, and I'm sure you can say it in your business and that too, of course, nothing is ever as easy as it seems. Marketers are good at one thing, marketing. Are they necessarily good at business? Well, that's a different topic. So I always look at these things with a grain of salt, including for myself. People, you should always look at someone and say that if someone says it's quick, it's easy, those are all instant red flags as to me to say, no, it's never quick, it's never easy. And that's been proven over decades, even before the internet age.
Sure.
So I look at that and I look at personally, like a lot of these people that run these ads, if they're flashing sports cars, beaches, mansions, to me, that's also just ways to mask and hide the truth. That's generally, they're just trying to get you into whatever his or her program is, and it's nowhere near as good as what it is. In relation to finding good people, personally, I always just say to people, well, watch some of their content, and the good people will always say that business is never easy, in my opinion, because I could easily say to you that business is easy, and I could build a lot more trust with you a lot easier. Or I could be honest and say, no, business is not easy. It's hard. You're going to have to work hard consistently every day. And those people are the ones that are usually the ones that actually know what it's like, in my opinion.
I think that makes perfect sense. And I guess, Theo, you can talk to this too, mate, because I guess you discovered Ricky on YouTube. You saw him as an opportunity to collaborate. You went to buy his program. So this is a perfect example.
So for me, I've been in a lot of programs, like, as I said, Neil Patel's and Frank Kern's and everyone's, right? Like a lot of different e-commerce programs. And the main thing for me to know if someone knows their stuff, especially in e-commerce, is have they built a store themselves, okay? Because here's the thing, right? You can be an agency, not awesome agency, an agency, right? And you can work with some massive, massive brands that have all this data, right? And then you just throw up a remarketing campaign and you get like a 20x ROAS because they never marketed before on Facebook.
Sure.
And they have all this data. I mean, how hard is it to do that, okay? What's hard is building a business, finding a product, marketing it, branding it, having the right content, having the right creators, building all that stuff up, all those assets, and growing a business from zero to $100,000 a month, which Ricky has done. He's done over $0 to $1 million in 1 month. That's the crazy amount. So when you look at that in terms of someone, if they're qualified or not, look at what have they done. Have they worked with just big brands, or have they worked with small brands too? Sure. Have they created their own stores? What kind of knowledge do they give out on YouTube and other different channels as well? So the biggest thing for me is obviously have they done it themselves and have they done it for a business, which is not massive. Because when you work with massive businesses and massive budgets, it's easy to get results, okay? But when you look at things where you sort of give $1 and you want to get $5 back for the client because, they've got a family to feed and they've got expenses and bills, that's what I look like. That's what I look at. And that's why I sort of chose Ricky when it comes to partner up and looking at his course.
And this is why I love what you guys do. And one of the things that I really love that you guys did recently is that you wanted to prove that you could take an e-commerce store from zero to basically to hero. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about that experiment and kind of what you guys have been working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So first things first, I don't think we've actually hit that mark, have we? Partly because with COVID, it's caused a huge amount of logistical issues.
Sure.
And it's a pain, because the product with our strategies can easily be scaled. That's not a problem at all. So I want to be perfectly honest with that. We haven't hit that mark as yet.
Not yet.
That's, because, getting the product, for instance, from China and stuff, especially to where we want it to go.
Sure.
Because factors out of our control. And so there's that. Now, I've forgotten the other part of your question.
Let's start from the beginning. What was the product and how did the idea come about?
I'll let Theo answer that one.
Awesome. So what the competition was for myself was to show everyone that you can grow a business from $0 to $100,000 a month in 90 days. Now, I gave myself that challenge because I really like challenging myself. I like to sort of push myself as well. So I was like, can I do it? Okay. So we decided, it's possible we can do it. So then we tried this product. I don't really want to say what product it is just yet because it is new. We created it. We found it in China. We developed it. We're still improving it. And until, we've made the last version of it and made our brand 110%, then I'm more happy to sort of give out the information.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So in regards to that, so the biggest issue for us at the moment is obviously advertising. We're getting like a 5-6 ROAS. It was like, $500 to $1,000 ad spend a day. The biggest issue for us has been logistics. And that's, again, coming down to having that experience and understanding, okay, cool. Marketing is great. Facebook ads are great. But how can you solve logistics, right? And we've been doing a lot of learning lately. And we were working with sort of Amazon. So we're looking at Amazon fulfillment and going through their process to sort of figure out a way, right, from our China suppliers to take these take this product all around the world in different Amazon fulfillment centers and have it all automated for us. So we can just focus on scaling marketing ads and doing crazy numbers every single day without worrying about logistics. Because the biggest issue for us is, we're out of product already. I mean, we sold thousands of units in like a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Like we thought it'd be a bit slower in that, but obviously with good marketing and good experience, it's just happened, right? So yeah, that's in terms of where we're at with our challenge at the moment.
And this is what I see with a lot of e-commerce businesses, right? It's that constant to and fro. You've either got all this stock that's sitting in a warehouse somewhere and you can't bloody move it because the marketing's not working, or your marketing's crushing and you don't have any stock to bloody sell because you're waiting for a container to come from China.
Exactly.
Which it's that battle, right? And it's about that mastery of both the marketing piece, but also the procurement to make sure that you've got a full end-to-end business that functions and that's profitable.
Exactly right. And that's happened with a lot of our clients, actually. I mean, most of the time what happens is, your marketing is great, it's amazing, but, we ran out of stock, slow it down. That happens a lot, especially with e-commerce. So one of the things we try and do is pretty much have a goal ROAS or a goal return on investment for our clients.
Sure.
And make sure, they're actually profitable rather than just smashing ad spend and not making them that profitable, so they can make as much profit as they possibly can.
Yeah, it's super important. We work with quite a lot of e-commerce businesses, and one of the biggest issues is their profitability. They think that revenue and having a big revenue business is the goal. But the reality is, if your margins aren't there, then it's not going to be a sustainable business. And sometimes you can send yourself into a quick and shallow grave.
Yep.
So
I find that a lot too. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please, mate.
That's one of the things that I find really interesting about e-commerce is people very much, for instance, the benchmark with Facebook ads is if you've got a 2.0 ROAS, you must be profitable, but that's a very subjective thing. I've personally sold products that are very low ticket, that have lower margins, and then products that cost 10 times more, but still have low margins in that. And then as you would say to your clients, and at the end of the day, you have your staff cost, transaction cost, taxation, refunds, returns, app cost, domain, so many miscellaneous and external costs that people think that e-commerce is this gold mine, and no doubt it is, but it's a gold mine in 6, 12, 24 months, and it really takes that time because you're also at the same time having to buy a lot of stock. You're basically reinvesting your profits or a good portion of it back into buying more stock because you need to be able to consistently fulfill those orders too.
That's super important. So let's go back to grassroots, because I think there's a lot of people who, through this coronavirus situation, they've finally said, "Hey, I want to get into e-commerce," and they want to give it a red hot crack. Maybe it's a way of diversifying from their existing business, and maybe they want to get into a completely new business altogether. So let's talk about the product. To find a winning product, what's the process that someone should start with? Just kind of top line, high level view. What should they do to try and find a winning product?
Yeah, it's a great question. So like what Theo was saying before, to find a great product, I use a bit of a criteria to start off with to define what is a good product before we find it in the first place. So as Theo was saying, generally a product that solves a problem. Okay, so if you try and sell someone a t-shirt, don't get me wrong, people will buy them, but do they need it in their lives? Well, that's another question. If it was an item that was a t-shirt that helped them to work out easier at gym or something, maybe that might be a completely different story. So you always want to try and look at something that solves a problem. You want to try and find an item as well that has mass appeal. Okay, so what I mean by mass appeal is there's products that go to very, very niche markets. And then there's products that will be in every household. Let's say something that might be relating to your toothbrush, how to an item that will help you brush your teeth much quicker and easier, like an electric toothbrush as an example. Every household has it, so you're not going to be limited to a very small audience. Therefore, the item, if it sells and does well, has a lot of opportunity for scalability. And then to me, I always look at profit margins, okay, that I always want to at least be able to sell a product at personally a 3x margin and above. Obviously, the more the better, right? But, you want to upfront know that you have good margins enough to facilitate the continued growth of your company, because as you obviously continue growing, spending more money, your margins can generally go down, especially in the short term. And then obviously a product that just catches your attention. At the end of the day, this all comes down to your your personal belief, but something that you feel catches your attention, and is like, wow, I really want that, has that wow factor. Because if it does, and you think that, well, then it's highly likely that other people are going to think that too.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the things that people come unstuck with is if they start an e-commerce business and maybe upfront they don't want to do wholesale, but then wholesale becomes something they want to do later. And if they don't have the margin there, they physically cannot do wholesale because there's not enough markup for the retailer to allow them to make a margin. And I guess a lot of e-commerce businesses come unstuck there, right?
Yep, very often. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely right there.
So Theo, let's talk about then let's assume that we've got that criteria. We've found something that's a necessity, that solves a problem, that's mass market appeal, it has that wow factor. And when it comes to the technology piece, you guys said that you pretty much exclusively work with e-commerce businesses that use Shopify. Why is that, would you say?
So in regards to the reason why we use Shopify is because it has the capabilities that a lot of other platforms don't. Also allows us to use a lot of different apps that can bring up to 20 to 30% extra revenue without any additional cost.
Yeah,
Now,
wow.
obviously, there's apps that are set up properly, and we've got a process for that. We've done it a million times. So that's why we sort of choose Shopify. I mean, Shopify has been built for e-commerce, and it's one of the best platforms out there for it. And you have to worry about a lot of things that you do with WordPress. I come from a website development background. With WordPress, you have security issues. It's not as fast. It's not as easy as just focusing on your product and your marketing, rather focus on actually development of your actual website. So that's why Shopify. In regards to what you do after you sort of found a product that you like, okay, now here's the thing that I like to do. I like to sort of put up that product, create a creative, really nice creative around it. Understand that obviously your customer. So do some research about your customer first, see what kind of problems they have with it, and how the problem actually solves that problem. Now from there, I like to put up that product on a Shopify website and run some marketing to it, right? I won't even buy the product yet. I'll just literally put it up and just take a look at the data. Do we have cheap clicks? Okay, awesome. Do you have a good CTR, so a good click-through rate? So people sort of interacting with this ad. Are people, added the cart, initiate checkout? These are all good signs that this product is going to sell. Okay, so if you have all those things and you even do get sales, just tell the customer, hey, sorry, we're out of stock. We'll send it to you soon. We'll send you a free sample, for example. And then just order the stock, and then there you go. You have an e-commerce business.
I love that. I think so many people do this the wrong way around, right? And look, I remember my first e-commerce business was actually an eBay store that I created. And I'd come up with this brilliant idea, and I don't know what this says about me, but I decided to buy all of these women's bikinis and tried to sell them on eBay. And look, we did okay, but bought the product first and then tried to find a market to sell it to. Whereas you guys are doing it the complete opposite way around, and it makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, it's a lot more risk free, I guess, that way as well. It's also important that you don't stretch it too far where you get a heap of those sales. To me, I just look at it that a couple of sales, and then those customers that have purchased, even though I don't have the stock, I'll treat them like a god, like any of your customers you should anyway, because it isn't right to screw around someone, and so it's a good way to just get some data, test it, and then straight away. Then you look at because then you've got a proven model where it's like, well, I'm going to be buying 500 units of this stock that I'm 99% sure instead of 20% sure that I'm actually going to be able to sell all of them.
Makes perfect sense. So to get started the right way, how much budget do you think somebody's going to need to make sure that they can get everything set up, get all of the tech set up, be able to get a bit of stock and be able to do their marketing properly, to give themselves the right platform to kickstart?
Yeah, I get this question asked a lot. It's an interesting one. I say at least $1,000 personally. I would, like anything, I would always argue the more the better, right? Because there's a lot of unexpected turns you're going to have in business world. $1,000 is minimum, and I recommend also then just going on YouTube and just learning about marketing and stuff, and starting from there. Usually, because the $1,000 means that you have a bit of money to spare for your Facebook ads. And if you do get sales, you can actually fulfill it. I see a lot of people that they get sales, they don't have any money to fulfill the order. And it's sort of, it becomes a bit of a bad experience for your customers, and you don't really want that.
You don't want to burn your reputation. It's all you've got in this world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Adding on to that, what I like to say as well is like learning marketing, right? So when I first started learning marketing, I mean, I went and did some free work for Frank Green. So I had all this marketing knowledge off YouTube. I had all this knowledge. So I was like, you know what? I just approached Frank because I think they're a cool company. I was like, hey, like I see you doing Google ads, but you're not doing Facebook. Let me run your Facebook ads for free. And he's like, for free? He's like, okay, awesome, sweet. No risk, nothing to lose. So at this stage, I had all this amazing knowledge. I've gone through all these different courses and sort of learned a lot about it. And in the first 3 months, we ended up getting about, I think it was like 200% increase in sales. I can't say the exact amount due to NDA.
Sure.
But he was super ecstatic. Ended up being a client of mine for a very long time. So if you do want to learn this stuff and you want to sort of try it out, I would say go to obviously learn the knowledge as Ricky said, and go to these big companies and say, hey, let me run your marketing. Just give me a low budget. Let me run your marketing. I'll show you what I can do, and that way you can learn of their budget rather than trying to sort of get $1,000 and sort of keep spending on different products that don't work. It's much easier to scale a product that's winning, that's working already, than trying to find your own product. And that way you have the marketing knowledge. Then you go, bang, okay, awesome. I want to make my own e-commerce business. I have the knowledge. That's not an issue. I just need to find a good product.
Phenomenal. That's so much value, guys. That's awesome. So let's talk about Quick Evolve. So what's a typical ideal client for you guys, and who do you feel that you can help the most?
So our ideal client is we want to work with clients that have existing established results, where because then we can sit back and confidently say, yes, we will actually get you better results. If someone is brand new to the business, I can't confidently say that I can sell this product and get you good margin. That would be lying. So they have to be at least spending 500 to 1,000 a day, in my opinion, with a consistent sort of bit of history going on, because then we can sort of look at the data, look at their overall scope, from the Facebook, Google, Shopify, or however their strategy is, and say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is the sort of expected results that we would expect to get you using this strategy. Because unfortunately, as great as it would be helping people that are new, I can't confidently put in a strategy that I know will actually work.
Sure.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And adding on to that, and this is why I think with our only agency that sort of offers, we either work for free or we'll give you money back if you don't get the result that we told you you're going to get in 90 days, right?
Wow.
We're the only agency that does that, because we've done this so much and we've looked at data so much that we know that if a business has a working product, then we can definitely help them scale. But as Ricky said, it's very hard to find a product that's not working and make it work. At the end of the day, you need that product market fit. And if you got that and you're spending $500 to $1,000 a day, we can definitely get you, $500,000 to $1 million a month. That's not an issue.
I love that. Fantastic. So I guess people who are in that position, they're probably in one of two spots. They're either running their ads themselves, or they've got an existing agency that might not be working. So what are the symptoms that they should be looking for that essentially lead them to maybe getting a second opinion from you guys?
Personally, are they running many campaigns? That's just my perspective, because most are just running, as most of them running Facebook ads. So one, I'll look at, are they doing many changes in your Facebook ad account, on a daily basis? Because Facebook is something that requires daily management. Unfortunately, you can't set and forget it.
Sure.
So that to me is a big thing. Two, I also look at that, are they using rules? Personally, to me, rules are one of the keys to scaling, like to maximize your ad spend, so that even if there's no human involved, there's something that's trying to help manage and get you the best results. And three, I would also say that they're not just focused on increasing budget to get more sales. They should be focused on, all right, well, that you're getting good sales, how can we use existing traffic to then get more sales? So you're not spending more, you're just making more per dollar. And I always argue, to me, that's probably one of the most important things.
I love that.
And definitely, if, for example, you are spending that amount of money and you do want a second pair of eyes on your account, definitely reach out to us. I mean, again, we love what we're doing. We love working with businesses who have an amazing product that helps solve problems in the world. So we'd definitely love to have a look for you for free and see, if there can be some sort of improvement there.
Beautiful. I love that, guys. That's amazing. Now, for those that maybe aren't at that level of spending, maybe they haven't got a proven product yet, what would be your advice to them? Are there any other resources that you can point them to aside from YouTube?
Well, I personally just say to people, like, Facebook groups are a great one. There's in the e-commerce space or entrepreneurial space, Facebook is one of the best resources where you can network with a lot of people that are in the same position as you and just read up on these value posts. A lot of people do that, and you can start to build up your repertoire of knowledge. Personally, I find between Facebook groups and just YouTube in terms of tutorials, you'll have enough knowledge, combined content, I should say, to be able to start building up your skills and repertoire. And as what Theo was saying before as well, I struggled with this too, so I'm no messiah. Networking, just asking people some questions. Don't expect that everyone's going to help you, but just try. You'll get some people that are willing to, that will take the time to help you, and you'll build up. I've made a lot of friends that way personally as well.
Amazing.
Yeah. And if you do sort of want to spend some money for some VIP knowledge, we do have a coaching program that's in the works, but it's not completely finished yet. But we are working on a coaching program as well to help people sort of a lower budget that really can't afford our services. We definitely want to help other people too. And e-commerce is an amazing space, and everyone should be involved with it. Just reach out to us, and again, just let us know what you're trying to do. And if you are the right fit, we'll speak to you about it and sort of tell you what we're working on.
Amazing, guys. We'll include all of the details in the description below. And look, you've dropped some real value bombs, but let's kind of wrap it up, guys, of your kind of top 3 tips for e-commerce businesses. So starting with yourself, Theo, what would be the top 3 things that e-commerce businesses should take away and go and implement off the back of this podcast?
Awesome. So the first thing I will say is definitely start testing out more audiences, because you never know, like, when you can find more winning audiences. Definitely be testing creatives. So create every single week, create new ones, test them, see if they work, and work on your customer journey. That's the most important part. So understand your cold traffic, your warm traffic, and obviously your remarketing and post-purchase traffic. Understand that these are all separate and they'll only be treated differently with different marketing strategies, and just keep focus on that. If you can sort of decrease your cost per purchase, you keep scaling up quite nicely without sort of, losing much of your spend there.
Amazing. And Ricky, what would you add to that, mate?
There's just some great points there. You've got me. No, but
definitely, Ricky, definitely put in your apps and stuff as well. I think people should know.
Yeah. So to me, I look at it that don't just look at that Facebook's going to do the work for you. Always understand that it's a piece of software, and software is limited like anything. That always look at, as Theo was saying, the journey, using the back end of your store, especially if it's Shopify. There's a lot of opportunity there to remarket to people. Completely automated would be number one. Don't just rely on Facebook as well in terms of as a marketing platform. There are plenty of platforms out there where everyone is crushing it, from Google, Bing, YouTube, Pinterest. There's a lot of opportunity outside of Facebook, so don't just depend on Facebook. And 3, I would say my biggest thing is give business time. I know it's probably one of the things that's the least traceable, but time in business is, to me, one of the most important keys. Be patient and diligent and consistent, and you will start to see that result given time.
Amazing. That's so much value, guys. It's been great chatting to you today. I think everyone can learn a lot from this. And I think this just goes to show that when you speak to experts, they don't need to call themselves experts. They can show that they're experts. So, guys, I really appreciate you sharing your time today. Guys, been another episode of the Enjoy the Journey podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if you do want to reach out to Theo and Ricky, make sure that you follow the links below, get in touch with them, have a chat, see what opportunities are out there for you to do your marketing better in your e-commerce business and take things through to the next level. Theo, Ricky, thanks again, guys, and look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. See you later.
Bye-bye.